Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm your host, Lydia Patel, and as always, I have another very special guest with me. Her name is Rachelle Suissa from Brooklyn, Queens Now, and we're coming up next. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. I'm your host, Lydia Patel, and we're about to get started here with Rachelle Suissa of Brooklyn, Queens Now. Rachelle, welcome to Beyond Focus TV.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So why don't you tell us about Brooklyn, Queens Now?
Sure. So Brooklyn, Queens Now is the Brooklyn, Queens chapter of the National Organization for Women. It's been in existence for 41 years, which is one of the longest chapters in this country, longest running chapters. And basically the goal and the focus of the chapter is to work on social and political equality for women and girls in the Brooklyn and Queens area specifically.
And what's funny is the title Brooklyn, Queens Now. How did that all come about?
So originally it was the Brooklyn chapter, right? So because Brooklyn is a very large borough, as we all know. It encompasses a lot of different neighborhoods and a lot of different people. But eventually it did become the Brooklyn Queens chapter, so it expanded to include Queens as well, to cover more ground that way.
Now, what are some of the things that basically, when someone wants to get on board or get involved? I know we're talking about equality. And one of the main things that I actually want to talk about when you think about equality in terms of women's rights is the pay. So let's cover a few of those things that aren't so equal right now for women's rights.
Sure. So equal pay has been a struggle for the last 40 years, as we all know, right? The Equal Pay Act was passed in 1963 under the Kennedy administration, and while it did break some ground for women, obviously the situation hasn't equalized yet, right? And it's not only a gender issue that's the problem, it's also a racial and ethnic issue as well. So at this current time, white women make approximately 79 cents on the dollar for white men's earnings, right? Which is not fair. Obviously, it should be $1 on the dollar. But then you also have the racial and ethnic breakdown as well. So black women are only earning about 63 cents on the dollar for white men's earnings. And Hispanic women on average between 56 and 58 cents on the dollar. So there's really a larger pay inequity for black and Hispanic women as well.
Now, what do you think is the result of this? Like, why is this still going on so many years later when women get the same level of education, get excellent training, and qualify for positions? Why would I be hired as a ethnic female? Why would I automatically be paid less?
Well, there's a few factors that contribute to that argument. So the first factor is, even though, yes, women are getting higher levels of education, they're graduating with bachelor's degrees, they're going on to medical school, law school, business school, they're getting those PhDs, there seems to be a very large gap between the education they're receiving and the pay they're receiving once they get into the workforce. So there's what you call sort of a classroom to cubicle gap in terms of their pay structure.
I've heard of that.
Right, so this is a big problem. And another issue that we're looking at is that women are constantly being pigeonholed into a lot of service positions, right? So they're being sort of shuffled into these positions like home health care aides, nurses, you know, kind of a lot of these assistant positions, as opposed to sort of seeking higher level positions like getting PhDs in math and science, you know, going on to engineering. These are very commonly and traditionally male occupations, and women don't inhabit them. Even in this day and age, they don't inhabit them as frequently. So there's a lot of different factors at play here as to why women aren't receiving equal pay for equal work.
So just so the audience understands, if a woman graduates with, let's say, a bachelor's degree in journalism and wants to go on to work at a major newspaper, herself versus another white counterpart who's a male, they will not be receiving Is it only in certain organizations, or is that just standard across the board?
It's standard across the board. You know, the expectation is that they would be expecting to receive at least equal what men are making, but they're really not. And the average woman stands to lose at least $100,000 over the course of her lifetime as a result of the equal pay gap.
That is such a discrepancy. So by the end of the program, we'll definitely get some information on how we can get involved and possibly, you know, raise the bar on that. So what are some, aside from the pay, what are some of the other inequalities that exist?
Well, I think one of the most reverberated issues that women are working on right now is reproductive rights. So a woman's reproductive health is constantly being attacked on a statewide level, and also at the national level it's at stake as well. Different states, you know, obviously have the ability to pass different laws kind of restricting women's rights. The most common restrictions they have now are a lot of states are threatening to close their abortion clinics.
Yes.
You know, in Mississippi and other states around the country, this is becoming a very large problem where the state governments are constantly threatening to have those centers shut down so that women who live next to a center will have to travel for miles or even travel out of state to access an abortion or to get reproductive needs or medical attention in that way.
And so much of this is going on. This is not anything new. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to make, I guess, the wheel a little bit better.
Less greasy, perhaps.
Less greasy.
Yeah.
Less greasy. I definitely like that. Why has Brooklyn Queens Now opted to do more of a grassroots approach to get the message out to the people?
Well, because historically and politically, the grassroots approach is most commonly the way that works. If you can organize people at the local level, you know, women and girls in Brooklyn and Queens, and you can unite them around several common themes, the equal pay gap, reproductive rights, putting an end to domestic violence, you know, just leveling out the economic playing field for women, you know, even older women in terms of Social Security and Medicaid. These are issues that they still have a lot of problems with. So if we can unite women at the local level and get them to see why these issues are so important, that makes for a stronger grassroots approach and for a stronger national approach as well.
So has some of these things gotten out of Brooklyn and out of Queens? Have you been recognized out of Brooklyn for your achievements?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, NOW has chapters all over the country, right? So NOW is an organization that boasts over 500,000 members, right? The founding chapter, of course, was New York City, as we know. But again, now each state has different challenges that they're facing at the time, right? What's happening in New York is not the same as what's happening in California or Texas or Ohio. So we have now chapters working in each of these states, you know, furiously to really address these issues and to level the playing field for women and girls.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the resources? We'll get into that, of course, later on in the program, but just touch upon some of the resources that are commonly available if someone comes to the center and wants to either get information or know what they could even receive.
Well, so now what we like to say about NOW is that it is a political rights organization. So unlike other organizations that do provide social services, you know, like legal help or you know, sort of the same type of help that domestic violence centers provide, NOW is really a political organization. So we're about kind of getting out there and getting our voice heard. We do rallies, we do protests, we do speak outs on behalf of issues of importance to women and girls. So really the purpose of our organization is to kind of gather those women and get them to speak out and not be afraid to stand up about issues, right? So
that's great. And so much of that is going on. We need more girls involved. And do you have men who also take part of these? Oh,
we do. We have men sprinkled throughout the organization that love to come and to stand out there with us and support women's rights. You know, some of my close male friends are really intelligent. They're really involved in the women's movement. So I think that's something to be proud of. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, what is your message out there for those, there are some men still who just don't think there's a problem, don't think there's an issue. What is your message to them?
My message to them is if you have a woman in your life, a daughter, a wife, a mother, and I'm sure the overwhelming majority of you do, then it would behoove you to, you know, maybe have a conversation with them and talk to them about some of the issues that are going on in their lives. And I guarantee you the stories you hear will be pretty interesting, right? But really what you have to do is take the time to speak to them and get involved and find out what's going on and not just assume that everything's okay or everything's copacetic, because it's not always the case.
Be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm your host, Lydia Patel, and today we're having another discussion with Rachelle Suissa, who's the president of Brooklyn Queens Now. And of course, we had our very first segment. We're in the second segment. There's so much to discuss. So Rachelle, why don't you tell us about some more of the details that we have on this pamphlet and share some insight on some of the information.
So I think one of the most interesting things that's changed since Now has began some 40 years ago is that married women no longer need their husband's approval to open bank accounts or credit cards. And I think that's really a big accomplishment, especially in a crumbling economy where the jobs are not being created as quickly as they should be, and the fact that women do most of the shopping in their homes for their families and their children and everybody else. I think this is really something that should have been done way before that, but that's the case.
But at least it is done, and it's been done for almost about 30 years now. This has been no longer a requirement. You could freely go and have your own credit card, and I mean, as young as 18, you could pretty much go in as long as you could show that you're financially stable for it. So what are some of the other services that's discussed in here?
Oh, so some of the things that have changed since Now came to fruition is the Family and Medical Leave Act was passed in 1993, which gives people, working people, which is the overwhelming majority of the population, the opportunity to take time off when they need to. You know, if they have a sick parent or a sick relative they're taking care of, this act gives people, particularly women, the opportunity to take some time off, take care of their families, their children, their spouses, or whomever. Some states now recognize same-sex marriage, which is a very big accomplishment. And also young women age 17 and over can obtain emergency contraception over the counter without a prescription. So that's a big accomplishment too. In a society where we often doubt the perceptive abilities of young women to make decisions for themselves, and particularly older women as well, giving young women this right is really something that we worked hard to achieve.
Absolutely, and I fully agree on that. Now, of course, this is the Brooklyn Queens Now chapter, so these are things that are relative to our state here in New York. How does that differ to the Now chapters in other states?
Well, again, you know, each state, as being part of a federalist government, each state has the right to make their own laws on a varying amount of issues. So, for example, the reproductive rights legislation we have in New York is not the same as what exists in California or what exists in Texas. So the challenges that women face in those states in the form of reproductive rights, for example, is that many states are now opting to shut down the last remaining abortion clinics they have in those states, right? They want to restrict women's access to birth control, restrict women's access to abortion, just sort of put into place all of these different roadblocks that prevent women from really getting the services they need when they go to a reproductive rights facility, when they go to a Planned Parenthood, or when they go to a clinic that does provide abortions. So these are problems that take shape in varying degrees in states throughout the country. And each state does have now chapters, thankfully, that are working on these issues and trying to equalize the playing field for women and girls.
Now, is there a general consensus overall that are just certain standards that just unify to make it that this is really a Now chapter, even though each state has their own different laws?
So each state's laws are going to be each state's laws, unfortunately. You know, that's kind of the way we roll in this form of government. But as far as Now chapters go, they do agree on the basic principles, which is that all women should have access to reproductive rights. They should have access to the abortion services they need, the contraception they need, and just the basic medical attention that is required for them. You know, if a doctor sends them to a Planned Parenthood clinic and they don't have a lot of money, they should be able to get the health care that they need. They should be able to get access to condoms and contraception and the over-the-counter pill and all of these things, which is, again, a big challenge for a lot of women. But Now is one of those organizations that works to make sure women has access to all of those opportunities.
Very good. Now, what has been some of the challenges in really trying to get the message out there? You know, we have social media now, but even, I can imagine 40 years ago, it was a lot of knocking on the door, really reaching out to the people. So from the time that you've been a part of it and even pre that, can you elaborate on what has changed?
So absolutely. So I first joined my local Now chapter back in 2005 when I was a sophomore in college, and I took my first Introduction to Women's Studies class, and we had to do a service component, which is to join a women's organization of our choice, give them a certain amount of time for the semester, and then we could continue with them if we so desired. So I obviously really enjoyed my work with Now, so I continued on with them. But, you know, from that time, from about mid-2005 to now, it's almost about 9 years already. So a lot has changed. You know, Facebook wasn't as prevalent then as it is now. You know, I remember in between classes, I would go to the computer lab and use Facebook to check up on what my friends are doing or things like that. But now Facebook is used for so many different things.
Absolutely.
You know, it's used to promote businesses, promote nonprofits. You can have a group on Facebook devoted to a particular issue. I know I have several groups on Facebook with that purpose. One of them is called Stop the Republican War Against Women. One of them is Proud Supporter of a Woman's Right to Choose. So I know the power of a tool like Facebook in really organizing people, not only within your community, but outside of your community, and keeping them aware of a lot of the issues that women face. And it's a challenge sometimes, because of course you get people involved in Facebook that are not really interested in talking about women's rights. They'll join a group and then they'll post pictures about sunglasses or shades that they're selling or things of that nature, which has absolutely nothing to do with it. But again, the challenge is really being able to unite people on that issue and get them together and enable them to have a conversation about women's rights.
I love it. That's definitely one of the main focuses. And of course, there's Twitter and all that stuff. Well, we'll give all that info at the end. What about funding? I know this is a very big thing to upkeep, and nothing is free. Nothing is free. Information does come free, but it's membership based. Why don't you offer some insight on that?
Sure. So our chapter is, we're a very generous chapter. We do, if you want to become a member, we do ask for $40, but it is a sliding scale membership. So you could join at whatever rate is comfortable for you. And that entitles you to access to our local chapter meetings, which we have the first Monday of every month. It also gives you the opportunity to go to our state council meetings and conventions and the National Now conferences. If you're a member in good standing for 90 days, then you do have voting rights privileges when you attend a Now conference, which is really exciting. Those are held every summer in July, usually the July 4th weekend, in different states around the country. Next year it's going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is really exciting.
Very nice.
So yeah, so if you join and you're a member in good standing for 90 days, you become a voting part of the National Now delegation, which is really exciting.
Now, being a good member for 90 days, does that mean paying your dues monthly? Is that...
It just means renewing your Now membership, being an active part of our meetings, coming to chapter meetings, coming to our PAC meetings if we do have an election happening that year. Several months before, we'll have PAC appointments where we invite the candidates over to a member's house. We sit down, we interview them. You know, they filled out a questionnaire that we give them, and usually they score between 90 and 100%, which is very good for them. And we as a chapter decide if we're going to recommend them for endorsement to State Now.
Well, that's great. And this is an election year. It's 2013. A lot of big changes are going in our government, from the mayor all the way down to the district attorney. So elaborate on PAC.
So PAC, Political Action Committee, and I talk to my students about this when I'm in the classroom too. So Political Action Committee basically gives citizens that are interested in a set of rights, so for example, women's and girls' rights, the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with these candidates and then make a decision as a group whether we want to endorse them or not, you know. Whether they stand affirmative on our issues, you know, whether they're in line with us and our mission as an organization is really something we have to talk about. So again, having a PAC really gives our chapter board members and our regular members the opportunity to make a decision on these issues. And it's not always an easy decision. We had a lot of good candidates this year for mayor, and our decision in that field took a lot of time. You know, there was a lot of sort of back and forth about that, but we were able to come to a consensus on who we wanted to support. So, and that's the beauty of having a PAC is having your sisters there to have that conversation and tossing ideas back and forth and sharing opinions and really being able to have a high-level discussion about politics.
Absolutely, and a lot of people sometimes may not even get too deeply into that when they see the political realm. It's confusing for a lot of people. A lot of women still don't have a full-out scope or knowledge, or just choosing the right candidate that would really represent your needs. So it's good that you can actually go to a meeting and hear more information on that. We're going to get into the third segment coming up in just a little bit, but guys, don't go anywhere. You are watching Beyond Focus TV. I've got my lovely guest, Rachelle Suissa, who's the president of Brooklyn Queens Now. We'll be right back with more. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. back. You're locked on to Beyond Focus TV. I'm your host, Lydia Patel, and of course, my lovely guest once again. She's with us, Rachelle Suissa, president of Brooklyn Queens Now. We're in the final third segment of the program. I can't believe the time has been going so fast. So much information to give us in a short 30-minute period. But let's reiterate the main message of Brooklyn Queens Now for those who are just joining us.
Sure. So the main message of our organization is that we work on behalf of political and social equality for women and girls. And although a lot of people think that we have achieved equality, the same conversation and the same issues are being brought up that have been discussed 40 years ago. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that people know that we exist, we're out there, and we want you to get involved, and we want you to join our chapter. And tell a friend, tell a sister, tell somebody you work with that we exist, and that we want you to be a part of the conversation about women's rights.
Now, on a government level, do you think you've created enough of a buzz for them to really say, okay, these women exist and they're putting some information out there?
Oh, I think absolutely. And I think obviously, as we know, Democratic candidates pay more attention to women's issues than Republican candidates. And we know that because President Obama did call our president, Terry O'Neill, and he did ask specifically for her endorsement. So I know government's paying attention to the National Organization for Women, and they care about the issues we work on. And we know President Obama cares very much about women's issues. So.
Yes, he does. It's one of his top mandates, and that's one of the things that I think has drawn him to many of the women. Like you said, 52% of the country is ran by women. So I think it makes sense to get the vote out there.
You would think so, yeah, absolutely.
Just to try to get the knowledge in there. What do you have to say for those who call the organization a feminist movement and try to brand it and label it as something negative?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I don't think feminism is a negative label. I think there are a lot of misogynistic people out there, both men and women, who don't really feel the need to pay attention to women's issues or don't think that they exist. And to that, I would say we're proud to be a feminist organization. We're proud to stand in favor and in support of women and girls around this country because of the fact that we are 52% of the population and our issues are still being swept under the table or ignored or being challenged in many different ways. So yes, we are proud to be a feminist organization and to stand for full equality for women and girls around the country.
Very, very good. I'm glad that you stand firm with that, especially as the president. You're hearing it directly from you, so you're backing and you're supporting the mission, which is great. Is there any major press that you've had recently that really highlights and comes to your mind?
Okay, so the most press we get is around election time when we do our PAC recommendations for endorsement. So we did recommend John Liu for the next mayor of New York City. We thought he had the most integrity and he was the most forward of all of the candidates, quite honestly. And even though we did sort of part ways with Now New York City on that particular issue, we do stand firm as a women's rights group and we do support the views of other Now chapters, obviously. Everyone has the right to stand and make their own decisions. We supported Lou because we felt he was the best candidate for the women of New York City.
That's very, very good. And then looking back, any other highlights, not just local press, but I know sometimes there's a little buzz that's created, may not even be internationally, but even on a national level, where you guys are making that happen.
Well, we're part of a very well-fueled network of women all around the country working on behalf of issues. We helped Now New York City pass anti-trafficking legislation about 6 years ago, so that's really important. That's the founding chapter of the National Organization for Women, and we were proud to work with them on that issue, and we're proud to stand in line with the other Now chapters around the country on the various issues they're working on. You know, particularly women down in D.C. who still has the policy of taxation without representation. We're proud to support, as long as they're tax-paying citizens, they have a right to vote, and they have a right to have representation in Congress. So this is another issue, and again, depending on the state, it is relative, the issues that they're facing. But we do stand with all of our Now sisters, and we always support them. So.
Very, very good. 2014 is right around the corner. Just a couple months left for 2013, and we'll start into the new year. Can you give us a little sneak peek of what 2014 could look like?
So 2014 is our upcoming midterm elections, so we're going to be very excited. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of strong female candidates that we're going to be supporting. We do have interns working with the chapter who are truly doing a phenomenal job. So thank you guys very much. Hope you're watching this. But at any rate, we are going to try to get more of our membership active in terms of helping the most progressive candidates on the ballot get reelected. Because our ultimate goal is really to help turn around the numbers in Congress, to give Obama a more democratic House to work with, right? Because as we know, he's having a lot of difficulty passing a lot of his legislation that would help people in this country because of the fact that the House is majority Republican. So what we want to do is get as many Democratic candidates in there as possible who are in line with President Obama's agenda and in line with equal rights for women and girls.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. Two quick things I do want to touch upon before getting the contact information to everybody. Switching gears a little bit, texting and driving. That legislation is passed. We know that it's a bad thing, but what's your take on it?
Texting and driving. Well, you know, if you're given the privilege to be in a car and you're given the right to, you know, kind of run the road, then you should be considerate not only of everybody else who's walking and crossing the street and everyone else who's driving, but of yourself as well. So if you're sitting there doing this and there's people crossing in front and you're not paying attention, then you know the Murphy's Law is that something bad is bound to happen. So you really want to be safe and not do that while you're driving and make the road safe for all people to walk on and drive on.
Because there's two questions we always ask here at Beyond Focus TV. So there's that one, and your take on stop and frisk. We love asking our politicians to come in, but as a civilian yourself, stop and frisk, hot topic.
Very hot topic.
Very, very hot topic. What's your take on that?
Truth be told, I think it's a very unfair policy, and I think it should be put to an end, because what's happening as a result of this policy is that there's so much focus on the activities of people who are in neighborhoods that are deemed to be very bad or have a lot of negative criminal behavior going on in those neighborhoods. But I think when you put the spotlight and the focus on the people in those neighborhoods, you're missing a lot of the other actions and a lot of the other criminal behavior that's happening in neighborhoods you wouldn't ordinarily suspect. So I really think a policy like stop and frisk should be put to an end, quite honestly, because I don't see the point. I've seen in my community, in my neighborhood, I've seen things happen that no one ever pays attention to because no one deems it as a bad neighborhood. But then you have cops going into these so-called bad neighborhoods and frisking all the people they think are bad, but they're missing all the other activities that are happening everywhere else.
That's really happening.
Yeah, so it's kind of a waste of time in some cases because you're looking so hard, but then you're missing what's really there.
Of course, we just want, before we wrap up, let everybody know all the contact information, how we could get in contact with you, how we could join, be a member, all that good stuff.
Sure. So we have our website, which is brooklynqueensnow.org. You can go online. We have a membership form that you could fill out. You can either email it to us or fax it back to us or send it via regular mail if that's your preference. We also have an email address, bklynqnsnow@yahoo.com. You could send us an email and fill out the membership form there, and that's totally fine. If you want to check out our Facebook page, definitely like us. We're facebook.com/BrooklynQueensNow. We have a very pretty page with the three of us, myself, Julie, the former president, and Shirley, our current PAC editor and newsletter editor. So definitely check us out on Facebook. And again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me.
Well, that's great. Rachelle Suissa, president of Brooklyn Queens Now, join us for a very enlightening conversation on the Brooklyn Queens Now organization, what you do, and I think we'll definitely have to have you back for a second update, probably post-election, and see what some of these movements are going on and how they've all come to play. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that wraps it up for this week. Another 30 minutes of Beyond Focus TV has come to an end, but we'll see you again next week. I'm your host, Lydia Patel.
Beyond Focus TV show wants and needs your feedback. Did we blunder? Please let us know so we can improve. Was the show helpful to you? Drop us a note so we can share the success with our staff members. Is there something you think we could do better? We welcome new ideas and new approaches to old ideas. Do you have a great suggestion? Let us know and we'll work on it. If you would like to share your comments anonymously, please send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. If you want to get in touch with the executive producer directly, send him an email at gene@beyondfocusmedia.com. We really look forward to hearing from you.